Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I am your host, Preston Proctor. Let's just get right into it here. Tonight's game summary. Tonight's opponent. That's right. Tonight is the first matchup when the LA Kings come to town. So the Predators are home tonight to take on the 6-3-3 LA Kings. They are 3-2-2 on the road. That's right. Their 3 overtime losses tie them for top in the league with Vancouver and Utah, who also have 3. 12 games in and 25% of your games are overtime losses. What do you know? But they are second in the Pacific Division, so it doesn't seem to be hurting them a lot right now. The 6 wins definitely helps. And I guess you'd rather get a point in a loss than not get a point in the loss, right? So if you're going to lose, so I guess basically they're 6-6, right? 6 wins, 6 losses, but 3 were overtime losses. So, get those points. They are second in the Pacific Division behind Vegas by 2. The Kings have 15 points. And they started off the season by winning in Buffalo, then losing 3 in a row. The first 2 they lost were 2 in overtime. So they got those overtime losses in early. Started that early. They lost to Boston 2-1 and Ottawa 8-7 in overtime. At NHL, you score 7 goals and you still can't pull out the win. Wow. How often can you say that? No, I am not going to start tracking that. And it was not my intent to add those up. I've been spending more time with my special teams spreadsheet. Realized I missed a power play in one of the games. I keep having to go back to the other games and to all the previous games and see. And now I think the other night in Colorado, or the other night against Colorado went 6-on-5. They pulled their goaltender and they scored a goal. And I think that would be kind of interesting to track if I can figure out posthumously. We'll go with posthumously. Posthumously, whether they score a goal and they're 6-on-5, they pulled their goaltender. I'm having a little bit of, I haven't quite figured out my metric for figuring out when they pull the goaltender, because if you just look at the stats, they show how much time on ice the goaltender has, but if there's a delayed penalty and it goes on for a minute, they pull the goaltender, and so he's not on ice for a minute. So you can't really trust the time on ice when it comes to that. I guess it's close, so that might be what I have to go with if there's a goal scored close amount of the time when there was not a goaltender or during with the time on ice differential. Maybe. I don't know. Have to figure that one out. Anyway, so 8. So the first 2 losses that they got of the season were overtime. The Kings, LA Kings. Then they won 2, lost 1, won 2 more. And then they've been alternating losses and wins for the next 3. They are 2-1-2 against the Eastern Conference and 4-2-1 against the West, 1-0-1 against Central Division teams. Their goaltenders have roughly split the duties. Kemper got the first 3, then Rittich started the next 5, and then they alternated games with Kemper getting the last 2. Kemper was out on injured reserve, so I think that's why Rittich got so many games in there. I don't think that was probably the plan, but I'm not sure. Phoenix Copley was called up on October 16th, and Kemper was on injured reserve for almost a week. It wasn't a game at that time, so I think he probably got injured in the previous game, and then they called up Kemper, who backed up Rittich. But now Kemper is back. He is 3-0-3. this season, 3-0-3. So he's gotten all three of the overtime losses. So, he's gotten points in every game, or the Kings have gotten points in every game that he has been in. And Rittich is 3-3. So that's the goaltender story. Roster changes from last year. Notable forwards not with the team. Ex-Pred Victor Arvidsson was an unrestricted free agent signed by Edmonton. Pierre-Luc Dubois, in a trade with Washington, the LA Kings, they got goalie Darcy Kemper. So Pierre-Luc Dubois was traded to Washington for Darcy Kemper. Dag nabbit. That was something I was going to look up and make sure I knew about where Kemper Kemper played. I know he's played a number of different places. I think he was with the Kings once before, and good. I was happy to see him back with the Kings. I think that was a really good pickup. Ever since stupid Rob Blake got rid of, got rid of the inestimable Jonathan Quick. I think they've been struggling to find a regular goaltender. So now that I do see it, he did play with LA for 1 year. It was just 1 year, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years with Minnesota, then with LA, and then Arizona for a number of years, Colorado too with Washington, and now LA. So he's kind of been around a little bit, but primarily Minnesota and Arizona. He played in Arizona. He's still a really good goaltender. So we're excited to see him on the team. Those of you that might be joining in, I'll up front here. The LA Kings are my favorite hockey team. I lived in LA for a few years. Before living in LA, I was just a general hockey fan. I kind of bounced around. I traveled a lot during the week on my job. And so I would just go to hockey games. And so it was something to do when you travel every day or every week of the year. You have to find a routine, and mine was going to sport games. And so I would go to hockey during the winter. Went to minor league games, major league games, saw a lot of games. Now that I moved to LA and became a Kings fan. Moved to LA in 1999. Became a Kings fan, and now that I live in Nashville, I'm still a Kings fan. I lived in Seattle for 16 years, and the Kraken just came out when they announced them before I moved, but I moved here before the team started playing, so I kind of pull for the Kraken, but that seems to be waning. When the Kraken came to town, I wore my Kraken gear. And pulled for the Preds, which confused everybody around us. Did that once last year, and it was very confusing for me. This year, it was not confusing, but Seattle won. So far, I've been to 2 games this year, and the team whose jersey I represented has won both of them. Maybe that's a good omen for the Kings tonight. I'm tracking that. Last year, I felt like, okay, those again new for the team, maybe new to this broadcast. I got into this because I started looking at data, right? So I have all this data. So, one of the things as a fan, you think, gosh, I'm bad luck for the team. And 1 year I was for the Kings. I tell you, we went to see 4 games. It had to be 4 games. We went to Vancouver. We went to LA. We went down to Phoenix. And the Kings lost every one we went to. So when the playoffs came around, I was not going. But we have had years where every game we went to, they won, and that included in 2012 when they won the Stanley Cup. We went to Game 4 of the St. Louis series when they swept St. Louis, and we went to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup when they won the Stanley Cup. And then we went to a few other games during the year, and every time we went to the game, we won. So, it's kind of course, the Kings didn't win because I was there. But it's one of those things as a fan you kind of wonder about, right? And so last year I felt like not only did the Preds play poorly in the second period, which is one of the reasons why I started collecting the data that I use on this podcast, but also I felt like when I went, it was bad news for them. So I started trying to track, did I go to the game? Was I supposed to go to the game? Did I have tickets and not go? All these different permutations, right? Because I can't help myself. And so that's kind of where I'm at with this special teams spreadsheet. But anyway, the long story getting longer by the minute. Truth be told, I am a Kings fan. I am a Preds fan second, and an overall hockey fan in general third, which includes the Kraken at this point. But yeah, so I've when I finally moved to LA, started going to games with my girlfriend, now my wife, and we became big Jonathan Quick fans. Loved watching him play. We've got a picture of him holding the Stanley Cup in my game room, and just big Jonathan Quick fan. So anyway, so now they have Darcy Kemper in a trade from Washington. I think I saw Kemper play when we went to Arizona, so they now have a. They now have a goaltender. Obviously, I'm not talking much about Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was traded away. I haven't heard. When we moved here, I tried to follow the Kings, the Kraken, and the Predators, and I just can't. So I really enjoy doing this podcast. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. But I really try to focus on the Preds, and so I'm not really following the Kings that much anymore, which is fine. I feel like once Kopitar and Doughty retire, probably won't really pull for the Kings. Maybe just a little bit in absentia. If Rob Blake ever gets the axe, Robitaille is unlikely to fire him, but one can always hope. Maybe there'll be hope for the team in LA, but and as long as he's running things, I have no hope for them. So I do not know much about Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is no longer with the team because he was involved in a trade with Washington to get goalie Darcy Kemper. Another forward, back to the podcast. Hey, how was that for a commercial? Anyway, other forwards not on the team is Carl Grundstrom, who was involved in a trade with San Jose for defenseman Kyle Burroughs. Grundstrom, I think, scored a goal on his first shot as a King, and so everybody just wanted him to take more shots. Blake Lizotte, unrestricted free agent signed by Pittsburgh, is also not with the team. Notable forwards who are now with the team: Warren Foegele, no idea. I'm not even going to try again. Unrestricted free agent signed from Edmonton, ex-Pred Tanner Jeannot. Traded from Tampa Bay for a fourth round 2024 and second round 2025 draft picks. Andre Lee was moved up from the Ontario Reign. So that's the forwards of notes. Defenseman notables not with the team: Matt Roy, unrestricted free agent, signed by Washington. And notable defensemen that are new: the Kyle Burroughs from the San Jose trade with Carl Grundstrom. Goalies not with the team: Cam Talbot, unrestricted free agent, signed by Detroit. And new to the Kings, goalie Darcy Kemper, the Washington trade for Dubois. So Dubois. All right. I took a lot of French. I've been to France a number of times. Not fluent, but I supposedly have a pretty good accent. But that explains when, kind of a foreshadowing here, when we get to L'Heureux, the player for the Preds. They call him Roy, which grates on my ears, but I don't know how he pronounces his last name. As my dad famously said once, and I don't remember exactly the quote, but he said along the line, you were talking about how to pronounce somebody's last name, and he said, well, if they spell their name ABC and they pronounce it Mule, their last name is Mule. So I always remember that. I had to have been maybe 6 when he told me that. So I apologies to those that it was in the car, so the only other people that would have heard that would have been my mom and my 2 brothers, and my younger brother, who is the only one of that group still alive besides myself, was not old enough to remember that quote. So I comfortable that nobody will call me on that quote. Anyhow. So Darcy Kemper trade with Washington for Dubois. Oh, man, I must have drank a little too much coffee this morning. Okay, players to note, defenseman Drew Doughty is on long-term injured reserve. Hate to see that. Hate to see that from a Kings fan. Not too unhappy about that as a Preds fan. But anyway, right wing Arthur Kaliev is also on injured reserve. He was signed in September to a 1-year contract. As far as people that you will see on the ice, right wing Alex Laferriere. Or Laferriere, he probably pronounces it, Laferriere, leads the team in goals with 8. Alex Laferriere, right wing, leads the team in goals with 8. Defenseman Brant Clark leads the team in assists with 10. Center Andrzej Kopitar leads the team in points with 13, having gotten his 800th assist the other night. Kopitar. Tanner Jeannot, ex-Pred, Tanner Jeannot, leads the team in penalty minutes with 16. Left wing Kevin Fiala leads the team in shots, 33. Kopitar leads the team in shooting percentage at 36%. 4 goals on 11 shots. Okay, now this just proves what, as a Kings fan, what I've been saying all along. Kopitar does not shoot the puck enough. He doesn't. My gosh, it can be very frustrating. It can be very frustrating. Now that I've said that he's gonna take a couple of shots, he's gonna get a couple of goals tonight, I guess I'll be happy. I'm so conflicted right now. Anyhow, so time on ice leader is defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov. Vladislav Gavrikov leads the team in time on ice. So you'll see him. He's, I guess, pretty much taken over the ice time that Drew Doughty used to have. I think Drew's ice time has been up in the 26, 28 minute, it almost plays half a game. So him not playing is a big loss and a number of things for the Kings. And I last year, he's getting up there in age, and I'm kind of surprised that he's still getting the ice time, but he has. Let's see, he is 34. 34. Was it the defenseman with the Detroit, Chelios? I don't remember his first name. Chelios. He played till he was like 40, I think. So, and still played well. I don't know that he was putting up 28 minutes, but so 34-year-old Drew Doughty was normally the time on ice leader, and but not now. So Vladislav Gavrikov, you'll see the ice on the ice most. You'll probably see Kevin Fiala take the most shots, and just I guess just if you're a Preds fan, hope Kopitar doesn't shoot. So anyway, that's players to look out for. I don't think Jeannot is generally the guy that's Fiala had the most time and penalty minutes before this last weekend. Not like the Colorado player that got 17 minutes in one game the other day to overtake all of the penalty minute leaders for Colorado. But Jeannot must have gotten a few penalty minutes in the last couple of games. I didn't really care, but I just when I originally wrote my notes for this game was last Wednesday. So I think they played 3 games since then. So anyway, that's players on the ice to look out for. So Brant Clark leads the team in assists, and Kopitar's got a fair number 2 right behind him. So watch out when those guys are on the ice. Tonight is the Kings' 13th game of the year. At that point, last year they were 8-2-3 overall. They won their first 6 games of the year last year. This year they are 6-3-3, matching their overtime loss number from last year. This is their 13th game. I lost my train of thought. 13th game. So the 6-3-3 adds up to 12, 8-2-3, 13. So, lost my train of thought again. Okay. So then, so this is the 13th game of the year. And tonight is the 9th game for them on the road. They've only played at home 4 games. That seems really weird at this point of the schedule. I know, I think Grammy time, what is that, February? I know Grammy time, they tend to leave LA for like 2 weeks or something like that. So the Grammys come in and take over the city and the Kings just get out of town. So I'm not exactly sure why. The Preds announcers the other night noted that the Preds were going to be leaving for CMA, but I didn't think CMA was till June. I know the CMA I watch out for when everybody comes to town. Boy, you do not want to be downtown Nashville when that happens, because it's just crazy down there. But anyhow, so tonight is the 9th game on the road for the Kings. Last year, after 9 road games, they were 9-0. 9-0. So their 9th road game was a 5-2 win at Anaheim. This year, they are 3-2-2 on the road. Tonight's game is the first of a 2-game road trip. They go to Minnesota next. After that, they get to play 2 at home. Lucky them, get to play at home. Vancouver and Columbus. And then back on the road. And I'm really not sure why they're playing so many road games at the beginning of the season, but there you go. There they are. So I guess playing that many road games and being 6-3-3, not too bad. Not too bad. The Nashville Predators. The Predators are now 4-6-1, 3-5-0 at home. The Preds are in 8th in the Central Division with 9 points. Chicago has leapt over them. Chicago is 1 point ahead of the Predators. Tonight's game is the last of a 3-game homestand. They lost to Edmonton on Thursday and beat Colorado Saturday. Tonight is the 12th game of the year for the Predators. Last season, in the first 12, they were 5-7. This year, they are 4-6-1. So if they get the win, they'll be 5-6-1, fairly close to last season. So after that interesting beginning of the season, the Preds have kind of righted the overall ship. I guess if you take those 5 losses out, they're 4-1-1 in the last 6 games. So 4-1. I'll take 4-1-1 in 6 games. I will. It is the 9th game for the Preds at home. I guess they've only had 3 games on the road, which also seems a little unbalanced. Last season, this is not right. Last season, they got it. Oh, man, I really need to get my notes up to date. I have written down they were 5-4 in 7 games. That's pretty good. That's pretty good to have 9-game result in 7 games. Pretty good, but it's actually their 9th home game. They were 5-4 in their 9 home games last season. The 7th and 9th game was a 4-3 win against the Colorado Avalanche. This season, they are 3-5-0 at home. Take those 5 losses and shove them. Anyhow, players of note. Players of note. On Friday, the Preds signed forward Ozzy Weisblatt to a 2-year, 2-way contract. I did look that up. I was right the other day. 2-way contract. Depending on whether they play in the majors or the minors, they get different pay. So if it's a 1-way contract, they get the same pay regardless. A 2-way contract. I guess there are other aspects. I guess there are other conditions that could be part of it. I could be wrong in that particular aspect of this particular 2-way contract, but that's what I'm going to remember. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't even stay on a Holiday Inn Express last night. So they signed forward Ozzy Weisblatt. Not sure that we're going to see him. But they signed him. And then as far as players to watch for on the ice, left wing Philip Forsberg, just in general, the highest skill player on the team. I know we just got a couple of other guys, Marcia Schalt and Stamkos, and I'm expecting to see a lot more out of those. But just the way Forsberg handles the puck, gets the puck, controls other players, gets in the way, finds the puck, just his overall skill level and instincts, he's the best player on the team. He leads the team in goals with 6, points with 10, and shots with 51. So there you go. Center Ryan O'Reilly and defenseman Roman Josi are tied, leading the team in assists at 6. Josi also leads the team in time on ice, almost 26 minutes a game. In shooting percentage, center Gustav Nyquist is at 30%, 4 goals on 13 shots. He got 1 goal and 1 shot in Colorado. It was an empty netter. It still counts. All of his goals can't be empty nets, right? So, yeah. And then in penalty minutes, we have a tie. Left wing Cole Smith and defenseman Jeremy Lauzon lead with 13 minutes each. Those are the players that you'll see. You'll see Josi on the ice almost half the game, and you'll see Forsberg doing something. It sounds like he's going to be shooting the puck. Just scanning back up here. For the Kings, Fiala leads their team with 33, and Forsberg leads with 51. So he's got almost half as many more shots than the leader of on the Kings. The Preds stats at home. The Preds are 3-5-0 at home, winning their last home game against Colorado last Saturday. In that game, there was no scoring in the first period. Colorado got the first goal of the game early in the second period at 2:54 on a power play by Cale Makar. The Preds followed that up with a power play of their own, Stamkos at 8:31. Colton Sissons got a late goal for a rare Preds lead. He got assists from a couple of new guys on the team, Delgado and Larue and Delgado, the left wing and defenseman. They're starting to get a little bit more playing time. The Preds have been trying to figure out the defensive pairings, and so Delgado has come up to supplement And Leroux is also helping out in the forward situation. So that was all the scoring in the second period. So the Preds ended the second period with a lead. The third period saw Josi getting a goal with two other new people, different level of player, but also two new people with the Preds, Stamkos and Marchessault. So Josi got a goal. And then the scoring didn't happen again until 17:43 when the Avs cut the lead to 3-2. Believe at that point they pulled the goaltender, so I think that was a 6-on-5 goal. And then the Preds finished it up with two empty netters, Forsberg and Nyquist, to end the scoring. So they did not get the first goal of the game again. They tied one period, the first, with no scoring, and they won two periods. So far, the Predators are 4-7 in getting the first goal. The 4-7 in getting the first goal. And again, they are 4-6-1, and they're 4-7. That symmetry just seems a little weird. They're 1-2 when they get the first goal, and all three of those have been at home, so they're 0-0 away. And 3-4-1 when they do not, 2-3 at home, 1-1 away. For those of you that might be new, another one of the things that caused me to look into some of the data was the announcers talking about how the most important thing was to get the first goal of the game. And I'm like, well, you got to be kidding me. It can't be that important. It can't be that relevant. Well, the Preds, I'm here to tell you, last season at home had a 3-1 advantage if they did get it. So I think it was like 1-2 if they did not, but a 3-1 if they did. And that's a number, that 16-5 and whatever, that you've got to pay attention to. So thus far, the first goal does not have that great of an indicator. I don't know. I think the increase in scoring in the NHL probably will make that a little less as of a determinant. But I track it because it's one of the things that did look fairly interesting last year, and one of the things that I was bent on disproving. Because I didn't like that the announcers were saying that. I thought, winning the game was the most important. Scoring more goals would be more important. I could list, a few things that were. Saying that the most important thing is to get the first goal is, I still think, a little juvenile, obvious, but I cannot dispute that it was a determinant last year. So I was proved partially wrong, but I proved myself partially wrong, which is why I started doing the analysis about the second period at home. Were the Preds really that bad? And yes, the Preds really were that bad. So I proved that I was right. And now after I had all that data, I decided to start a podcast. Anyhow, so that was the first goal, not really being a determinant. Again, 5-7 right now, getting the first goal. This far into the season, there still have been no ties in the second period. I thought Saturday night was going to be it. Colorado got a goal, Preds tied it up. And lo and behold, the Preds got another goal, and again, no tie. So the winning goal, percentages of when the winning goal is scored. The winning goal is the goal the particular goal that exceeds the amount of goals that the losing team gets. So in Saturday's game, it would have been the third goal. And so in what period does that happen? Overall, at home, since tonight is a home game, 25% of the time it's in the first or second period, and then 38% in the third and 13% in overtime. Now, when the Preds win, it's either the first, third, or overtime. 0% in the second and 33% for the other three. When the opponents win, 20% of the time in the first, 40% in the second, and also in the third. Last year, the Preds had a higher percentage. When they won, they would score the winning goal in the second period at home, and like 39%. That's fairly significant. 2 out of 5, right? And when the Preds would lose, the opponents would primarily score the goal in the third period. So far the Preds are not getting that winning goal in the second period. Just need the winning goal. Also, looking at my special teams spreadsheet, the Preds have 9 power play goals to the opponent's 3. As I said earlier in the show, I missed one when I did the podcast for Saturday's game. I had missed one. I think it was in the Boston game, but so 9-3. And so what I think the interesting stat about that was that there were only 2 games where the Preds did not get a power play goal. So they've gotten a power play goal in most of their games. Again, I think that is pretty amazing. You can almost guarantee they're going to get a power play goal right now. And then looking at special teams goals. Special teams are basically anything that's not 5-on-5. Now, what I have not yet counted in the special teams, I've been tracking empty net goals somewhere else. I'm not counting empty net or 6-on-5 goals. And Colorado went and scored a goal after they'd pulled their goaltender, and I think that's the first time this has happened this season. And so that happened, and I'm like, oh crap, I have to track something else. Maybe there's an easier way to do that. But it's going to happen so rare. Like I said, it's hard to know just looking at the stats whether or not it was a 6-on-5 situation. But anyway, so when I'm looking at the special team stuff, I'm not counting empty netters or 6-on-5, but 4-on-4, 4-on-3, 5-on-3. Most of the time, they are in the second period, which is also kind of interesting. In the first period, the Preds and the opposition are 2-2, 2 goals each in special teams. And in the second, 7-5. So 12 special teams goals in the second period, and the Preds leading that 7-5. And then the third period, 3-0 all Preds. Now, again, that does not count the empty net goals. And I know there have been quite a few empty net goals, and can't call that on the top of my head. And I probably should throw that into special teams. But I'm tracking that in a different way for a different thing because apparently I have way too much time on my hand. And anyhow, so special team scoring is most likely going to happen in the second period so far. And wrapping up the Preds at home, last year they were 7-6 in November. At home, they were 5-3 at home and 2-3 on the road last year in November. So far, they just have the one game against Colorado, so they are 1-0 this November. And so that brings us to tonight's matchup. Tonight's matchup tonight in Nashville is the first game of 3 with LA. We'll play another home game against them just before Christmas and then wrap up the series with a game in LA in March. March is a good time to be in LA. That's probably a good time. It's a good time to be in Nashville. I mean, it's not really a weather. I don't know. February is a good time to be in LA. So the third and only away game with LA will be in March. Last year, we also played the Kings 3 times, twice in LA, early January and late February, and then in late February in Nashville. So the game in Nashville was between the two LA games. The visiting team won all 3 games last year. So Nashville was 2-1 against the Kings last year, with the visiting team winning all 3. In LA, it was 2-1. In Nashville, it was 4-2, and then or 2-4 because the Kings won in Nashville. So Preds lost 2-4. They won 2-1 in early January, lost 2-4 in late January, and won in February 4-1. The winning team got the first goal, so the Preds were 2-1 in getting the first goal in that series. In all 3 games, the losing team only scored in 1 period. The losing team only scored in 1 period in all 3 games. That would be the home team. The home team, which also lost all of those games, only scored in 1 period. In the first game, when the Preds won, the Preds also only scored in the first period. Both teams scored in the second. Obviously, the Preds scored more. LA is starting a 2-game road trip tonight, so they have no results yet on this road trip. They did lose their last game in Chicago in a shootout. Their last game against Chicago at home in a shootout, but they also lost their last road game in San Jose. So they lost their last game. They are on a 1-game losing streak, which I don't really consider to be a thing. They lost in a shootout, but their last road game was a loss. The Preds are in the middle or ending a 3-game homestand tonight. They are 1-1 so far, winning their last against Colorado, losing the first against Edmonton. So that's your kind of data update on tonight's game. You're going to see Andrei Kopitar out there. You'll see Forsberg taking shots. You will not see Kopitar taking a lot of shots. If he does, they'll probably go in. So we'll have to counter with Nyquist. So that'll be an interesting battle tonight. The goals for Nyquist versus the goals of Kopitar, or shots, Nyquist shots, Kopitar shots, since those two lead in shooting percentages for the two teams. I expecting Saros in goal tonight. I don't know that there's any reason not to. And I think we'll probably still see Leroux and Delgado. And there you go. I'm expecting the second period, again, not to be a tie, and there apparently to be special teams goals. So that's kind of my anticipation. I don't know. I'm torn. Here on Preds Proclivity, Predators Proclivity, go Preds. Preds are going to walk out tonight with a win. Anyway, so tonight the LA Kings come to Nashville for the first game in their 3-game series. The Preds are 1-1 in their homestand so far. They won their last game against Colorado. They are on a winning streak. They are on a 1-game winning streak. They've got a lot of momentum. They've turned the season around, and they are going to walk out of Bridgestone Arena tonight with a win. Go Preds. I am Preston Proctor. You've been listening to Predators Proclivity. And thanks for listening. Y'all have a great day.